Sometimes our bodies just don't feel right. Sometimes we're carrying more than we can say, and we don't know how to get back out of survival mode. And if you're in that place, if you feel emotionally overloaded, today we have the perfect person for that. She is a licensed social worker. She's an integrative, somatic therapist. She has just changed lives and continues to change them every day. So welcome, Melissa Romano. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's quite a kind introduction.
We're bold here, but we're honest. So, I love so much of what you're putting into the world. There's so many parts I want to get to. Can you explain what a somatic therapist and somatics for people who maybe don't know or are doing it and aren't aware that that's what they're doing?
Yeah. So somatic therapy is a body-based therapy and a bottom-up approach to therapy. So a lot of times, many of us, and if you're in this world and if you listen to this podcast, you're interested in, understanding yourself and learning new things. And that's a very top-down approach. How can I learn something or, analyze this or break this apart and then cultivate it into my life? Whereas somatic therapy is like, we're going to use the body and we're going to use it from the bottom up. So what we do with the body, how we process things, how we metabolize emotions, and then it works its way up to the brain. So it's, we kind of ditch a little bit of the thinking your way through or out of it and feeling your way in and through it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the things that people struggle with, and I know at times I struggled with, is I'm an overthinker to start with. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, is this working for me? And is going through the same thing again and again beneficial or healthy for me?
Oh, I love to ruminate.
Yeah.
It's like, I can weave a story and talk about it and beat a dead horse. And it's like, that was not working, at least not well. Right. In my own life. So, where I've come professionally is absolutely a very personal journey for me. It is my own healing. And every time I found something or learned something, I was like, I need to tell everyone else. So anyone that will listen, you all need to know this too. Whatever works or lands with me, I just wanted to teach it too. And then I learn better that way too. So the more I teach, the more I'm like, oh, this is really integrating into my own life too. So yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you share your own portion of it because I think it demystifies things. It makes it less medical and isolated and clinical, and it turns it into really personal and like heartfelt. And I think healing, I believe we heal in community. It's one of my kind of foundational beliefs. And I also, like you mentioned on your website, right? Fighting depression, having like chronic illnesses and like dealing with all that kind of stuff. Take me back to that part.
Oh my gosh. When I was 19, 20 years old, I was a mess. I didn't eat a vegetable until my mid-20s. I lived off of, drinking and cigarettes and whatever. Like in high school, I always say my primary food groups were like chocolate milkshakes and sunflower seeds.
Which is not a bad choice.
They're delicious.
They're very enjoyable, but not a nutritional value.
Oh, a Hardee's chocolate milkshake used to be $2.11. I would be like digging for change every day to go get chocolate. They used to use Hershey's ice cream. Delicious. But I just was overall unhealthy. And, my family was chaotic and my upbringing was chaotic. And I was active and in sports and things like that. Well, when I hit that time in college where I wasn't doing sports, I wasn't even like moving my body in that way other than, dancing in the club. But that probably saved my life, honestly, but to a certain extent.
Listen, joy is joy.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, how did I survive that? And I'm like, well, I loved to dance. So I was at least like moving things through my body then. And I was like a little hood rat. So I had subwoofers in my car.
Yep.
So like the vibration of the music, I'm like, I was regulating myself without even knowing that's what I was doing. But I just was not well. So at first, like most people, it's like, oh, I need to change the way that I eat and I need to get in shape. So I went on that trajectory and I became a personal trainer and a corrective exercise specialist. And then it was like, well, that's not all that's in there. So it's like, I'm physically healthier. And there was just so much, like I had chronic back pain, autoimmune conditions, and just still really struggled. So I'm like, there obviously is more to this, and I need to figure out what that is. And once I started, I think, being a little bit more open, and it was like people started coming into my life or like mentioning something. It was like the moment that I even said, I want to figure this out. It was like a friend would be like, hey, have you ever heard of reconnected healing? Or, hey, have you ever heard? And it slowly started opening doors like that to me. But the nervous system, once I unlocked that door, I was like, oh, I am fundamentally changing. I live with very little pain. If I went and had an MRI done, my back is structurally the same as it was then.
Right.
But I move well and I feel well. And it was kind of like I learned all of these different things, but the nervous system was the glue that pulled all of that together. So for me, I actually started moving through the world differently and actively feeling different. And I'm like, okay, there is so much more in this. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I want to go back to something you mentioned, because I think I was a coach for 26 years. So I coached kids and I coached high school and college and adults. When you play and you start early, you're just used to moving your body.
Always.
And you're used to using your body, but you're also used to a pressure and a release. And there's a valve there that is normal. And then all of a sudden you stop. And the body doesn't really know what to do with that stuff, because this used to be your release. It's one of the reasons I think people have such depression when they stop playing sports. Like when high school athletes don't get to play in college, or college athletes realize it's the end of their career. It's one of the reasons I think even professional athletes, like a lot of that stuff's been stored in your body the whole way. And now all of a sudden you stop your one kind of release or consistent active thing, and the body just kind of seizes up and turns internal.
Have you ever used an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker? So I always say we essentially are the pressure cooker. We are the Instant Pot. And we move through the world every day, like minute by minute, we are accumulating pressure, right? And to what you're saying, when there's no steam phase, when we don't let a little bit of that pressure out, what happens is the pressure keeps building. And what happens in an Instant Pot when you skip the steam phase and the lid pops off?
Yeah, it's not pretty.
That shit is all over
everywhere.
Your kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's what is happening when we are, we're blowing up over, oh, I spilled the milk. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm losing my mind, or I have no tolerance for these little annoyances. And it's like, well, yeah, you've had no steam phase. So you are exploding, and you're like, later, most people can look back and be like, okay, I was a little off kilter there. You know, that was didn't match what was happening. But at the time, it really feels like that, because we don't alleviate any of that pressure. It's just consistently and constantly building. And that is definitely where I was. And it resulted in chronic tension and horrific back pain. I mean, I was at 22, a doctor had actually suggested pinning my SI joints. So I would have been, I could have gone on disability with that. I would have lost range of motion. And it was like, no, there has to be something else, else in there.
Yeah, that's not where I want to start at this age.
Right. So to look back and now see that structurally, again, my bones and body are the same, but none of that pain is there. So it's like, obviously it was a little bit more than even what you structurally can see.
Yeah, so much of the mental part of this. And I actually laughed because you said the hood rat thing. And I thought back to I lived in Compton. I hung out with guys who every car had speakers in it, right? Yeah. Until you said that, it never occurred to me that rhythm and the bumping and the movement is very kind of comforting and healing, and they were grounding themselves in some ways in a way that I've never considered before, but it makes perfect sense. One of the reasons that people, especially who live in really high conflict and trauma backgrounds, love loud music, love that physical bump.
Like I want to feel it through my body. And I looking back now, I'm like, that is so smart. Like we are so smart. We do things without knowing why we're doing it, like, or why we like it, or how much it is actually saving us. And I'm like, I knew, like my body knew, and I wanted to go out dancing as much as possible. Like I was never leaving the dance floor. Like I'm so sad that people in college now don't dance. Like they don't. I'm like dripping sweat when I would leave places. But I look back now and I'm like, that was me regulating myself.
Talk about regulation. Where is the place that you wish people would kind of start and what they would look at them first?
The first thing is I wish that they would let go of the word calm, or thinking and confusing that being regulated means being calm,
right.
Because it is not. And I think that is holding people back and creating a huge barrier. I think calm is seductive. I think it's an easy sell to put in, marketing and to have that allure that everybody thinks like, oh, I want to be calm. I want to walk around, zenned out. And it's unrealistic, first of all. It's not true to the human experience. So thinking that regulated means calm, or that I have to be calm, or that I even feel good all the time is really what is tripping people up. Regulated means connected. Am I connected to myself? Am I connected to the people and living things around me? And am I connected to this time and space? Like this, am I in this present moment? Does my brain and my body know, that it is the beginning of April in 2026 and I'm no longer 8 years old and, in this situation. So regulated means connected, and starting there with one of those pathways. How can I connect to myself? How can I connect to safe people? How can I connect to this present moment? And that would be magic.
Yeah, I think people don't do the connection part. I think the connection part is scary to people. Mm-hmm. And then we all like this concept of like, oh yeah, I'll just be calm. I'll be zen. I'll meditate and it'll all go away and it'll be okay. Mm-hmm. Which is why I sucked at meditation, to be honest with you. I was like, I'm terrible at this. I used to torture myself about meditation, and a buddy of mine who was like an expert in it and had done it for like 30 years took me to go meet his guru. Mm-hmm. And I remember I would get furious with myself because I would fall asleep. And the expert, the guru, was up there and he goes, sometimes you just get calm and you get still. He goes, and the best thing that could ever happen at the highest level is just drift off and you're not here for a few minutes. You basically go to sleep for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And you wake up happy. And I was like, I just tortured myself for a couple years because I was doing it essentially right, but it didn't look the way I wanted. So I couldn't be calm about it, right? And I was just like driving myself crazy.
Yeah. Do you have a regular practice now?
It's not like regular. Yeah. It's like consistent for me. It's like I do it certain times. This won't sound like meditation for the world, but it is for me. Is I have 2 dogs who jump in the bed every morning. Mm-hmm. And we have a whole kind of routine that we go through in the morning. And there's like a moment of like clarity for me. I take like 2 or 3 minutes and I kind of focus on what I want to do. And then I also like kind of start my day with gratitude. And then literally I get tackled, which is and after about 2 or 3 minutes of just like chaos, and I trying for a dog to lick every inch of my face. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's time for us to get up. But it's play, right? So I start my day in play. Mm-hmm. And I have found that that's like the best. And I get up and we take them out and we start doing the day. But there's a couple minutes every morning where I'm like, I'm going to sit here, be clear about what I want today. Yeah. And then be grateful for what I have and where we're at.
That's a beautiful meditation.
Yeah, that's it.
I think, in Eastern traditions, the meditation is like in the West, how we say sports. Like that number of things fall into what meditation actually is. It's like using the word sports. Think of how many things fall under that umbrella. So meditation is very similar. I always say like I pop an M&M, like a minute meditation throughout the day. And I was trained in a lot of different things. I was like a perpetual searcher, like who is the one, like who is the guru that's going to fix me? What's the one thing that's going to be like everyone else? Like where's the pill? Where's the end result? Where's the end goal that's going to be the thing that finally makes me well. And, you know, I searched in all of these different avenues, and, you know, it's no surprise that it was already in me, built factory settings. But, you know, I would go to all of these different people, and I trained in meditation, and I tried these. I did, you know, an hour a day. I did 20 minutes twice a day. I did all of these different things. And it's like, yeah, it felt great. But did it change how I move through the world? And it's more these little check-ins, these little M&Ms that I pop throughout the day where I just kind of like, you know, what's happening here? How does this feel? Like, what do I need right now?
Where am I grounded? I'm gonna steal a couple minutes. I tell people all the time, I steal time and just take breaths, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Or I'm ridiculous and I will go somewhere and I'm like, I just want to make somebody laugh, or I'm going to give somebody a compliment, which is one of my M&Ms, right? Like that's one of my, like, okay, the smile from them is all I needed to make my day better.
I love that. Or dancing in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Or like I move, like a great somatic movement is like the wacky waving inflatable arm balloon men. You know, they're like that vibe, just like finding that in my body and like moving like that, laying starfish on my floor. Like those are my meditations, and I'm doing them for such short periods all throughout the day. And that to me produced a much better end result than like trying to do it perfect or trying to look right, or like how is everyone else doing it?
20 or 30 minutes or like 40 minutes at a time. Because I'm like, most people don't have that time in their day, and they try to like force that. And then what they end up is behind in this and stressed about that. And you're creating a whole different level of trauma in your body. Is I'm a firm believer in like, steal 2 minutes here. If I get somewhere early, I'm not a huge breathing exercise, but I do like some.
Yeah. There is no prescription for nervous system regulation. It does not exist. You and I have histories stored in our nervous systems. There are similarities in our histories. There are differences in our histories. So when we go to do a certain exercise, they're going to land completely different. I remember a therapist asking me, what does safety feel like to you? And I was like, I'd be like on my board in the water, just like floating like a lizard on a rock. And she's like, that's really dangerous. And I was like, maybe for you, you know, and I'm glad that I had enough wherewithal at that time to call that out. Whereas, you know, when I was younger, I would have been like, this is the authority on my body. She's the therapist. So clearly I'm wrong and there's something wrong with me. And it's like, no, the water to her in that scenario charges her nervous system where it relaxes mine. And breath work is the same, and meditation is the same. And I think a huge part, stillness feels very dangerous to so many people.
Right.
And if you are, I think categorically, if you were looking at how our systems work, it's kind of like polyvagal theory uses a ladder, which polyvagal theory has come under a lot of fire, rightfully so, and wrongfully so, but there is a scope, right, a range that we exist on. And if we are dissociated, so if you look at like a 3-lane highway, and in the left lane, you are in this ventral vagal, like social engagement, like what we would consider regulated, right? I'm connected. So I'm in this left lane, I'm like cruising, you know, I'm connected to everything. I'm smooth sailing.
Flow.
Right? Flow.
Yeah.
When we get activated, right, into fight or flight, we move into that middle lane. So now we have this charge and it's building. And if that becomes too much, we move off the shoulder into freeze. So if we're off the shoulder, we're dissociated, we're in freeze, and I want to get back over to this left lane, where do I have to go first?
You got to get back to the middle. You can't just pull over, and you don't do the thing on the freeway where you dive across 4 lanes and try to jump back into flow and then pretend it's working and then crash back.
Right. So you feel that activation. And I think for so many people, they go to try, they're over off the shoulder in that freeze state. They're dissociated. They're, disconnected. And then they're like, I want to sit down and meditate. And they want to crawl out of their skin. I'm like, you're actually on the right path. You're kind of like waking the system back up, and you're feeling that activation. And, if we know what to do with it, we can move over into that left lane. But we get really scared about any level of activation. Like we so clearly are like, anxiety, this is anxiety and it's bad and it means something wrong. And it's like, it doesn't. It's just information. It's just data. And if we can learn to work with that instead of on or against it, life is much easier.
Well, I think everybody has anxiety. This is the other part, that we act as if every single human being doesn't experience some form of depression. I think, again, it's a spectrum and there's a big difference, and how much it impacts people is different. But also like anxiety. I don't know how you can move through the world and not have anxiety. There's no way that you can look at what's happening in the world around you. You'd have to almost be sociopathic in a way to walk through a world and not have any empathy for the world around you and have some kind of anxiety over what's happening to someone.
Every week, I have at least one client that comes on saying, I'm just feeling really anxious and I have no idea why. And I'm like, have you taken a look around? Like, or is it just because you're paying attention?
Yeah, because the world's on fire.
I think it's just because you're a human being. And I get comments all the time. Someone recently had commented and they're like, what about if I feel anxious before a big event? And I'm like,
you should.
You should. That's exactly what you want. You're preparing.
See, this is what, as a coach, I used to tell all my athletes, right? I'm worried about you if you don't have that, right? Your body is in the highest state of being potentially successful. The adrenaline has dropped. Your body is getting ready. You can see better. You can hear better. Your body is ready to run faster, jump higher because you care. That feeling, Jenny Finch is a friend, and she used to use this expression. She wanted the butterflies to fly in formation. She's the first person I heard say that. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. Is if you don't get butterflies, then you probably don't care.
Right.
And I don't want you to be doing things you don't care about.
Right.
So come and feel that. And if you shift it to excitement, because that's how we look at it. And for me, that's kind of the way my life is. I shift things that other people call trauma or pain. And to me, they're part of a mission, or they're part of excitement, or it's part of an opportunity, or it's part of a growth opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, you alchemize it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with that is I teach these 4 quadrants. And one of the most powerful quadrants is the growth quadrant. And in this, we have a very activated nervous system. We have a settled self. Like, I am in here, like, I know that this is the right thing. But when I tell you, the height of my anxiety has come when I was doing the right thing.
Right.
When I was moving in alignment to myself, because it was so unfamiliar. And that's all the nervous system is functioning and operating off of. What is familiar to me? Well, what was familiar to me was not healthy. So it's like, when I go to do something healthy, when I go to do something good for me, what happens? My nervous system's like, this is not...
What are we doing?
I have no idea what happens here.
It's quiet here. People aren't doing anything.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's being so like, is there something happening? Is there something coming? Like, I grew up in a crazy, like everybody knows, I grew up in a crazy, chaotic environment, right? So my baseline is much different than someone who grew up in like a peaceful farm, or like somebody grew up in really like calm, regulated family.
You put me in a crisis. Yeah. Like, something is going horribly wrong. I'm like, all right, everybody, here's what we're going to do. Steps A through Z. You put me where it's like super safe and everybody is like pouring love into me. I'm like, get me out of here. Like, something's wrong. You know what I mean? Because it's just what is familiar and what's unfamiliar. So learning that it's a good sign sometimes. Like, that anxiety does not mean something is wrong. It is data. And we have to get to know ourselves well enough to learn how to actually interpret the data and, what to do with it and how to move through that. And I always use the example when I was making content on social media consistently to, like 2,000-3,000 views. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just like doing my thing and putting it out there. I made a video, like a video response to a comment, and I make this video just talking off the cuff, like exactly what I would say if somebody were sitting in front of me, and I put my phone down, I go to bed, and I wake up and I...
blew up.
I opened TikTok and I'm like scrolling. It was at like 120,000 views at that point. I'm like scrolling the comments. And when I tell you my first inclination was to delete the app.
Right.
Not the video, my entire shut it down, hide under the covers. They're coming to get you.
Yes.
They're going to tell everybody you don't know anything.
Right.
They're going to find you out.
Right.
I was moving in alignment to myself, but my nervous system was like, "Oh, we don't.
This isn't how we roll, right? This isn't the history, right?
Nope.
And talk about imposter syndrome, because you have some beautiful things on imposter syndrome, and this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I tell people I don't know that there's any form of life that you don't have some feeling like that.
No, and that I had these two beautiful humans, these two doctors, Dr. Emin Mayer, he is a leading researcher in gut microbiome, and Dr. Drew Ramsey is like the pioneer in nutritional psychiatry. And they were doing this workshop at the Omega Institute, and they are like, call me to join them.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck do they want me there for? Like, what am I? Wait, what? Who? And I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I don't have that thing of nothing. I think so many people are like, oh, I'm afraid of failure. And it's like, are you? Or are you super familiar with that? Like, I'm like close friends with failure. Like, I can self-sabotage and feel nothing. Like, I'm just like, oh, I know exactly what this feels like. I know exactly what to do here.
Yeah.
Like, no nervous system activation here. But to lean in to some sort of success or someone actually wanting me there, or like saying, no, I think what you have to say is important, and owning that, not long term, but in the short term, it feels awful.
Well, because it's all change, right?
It's all change.
And it's uncomfortable and it's foreign, and you're walking into a world. I tell people all the time, if you want to watch me squirm, you can yell whatever horrible things you want, and I'm going to be like, okay, cool, that's your opinion.
Yep.
Start giving me compliments. That is not what I grew up with. I didn't grow up in that environment. So I'm like, thank you. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn to like go, okay, that's not so painful, right?
Yeah.
Or I belong in this room. Mm-hmm. Maybe I don't have the same credentials as somebody else, but I have something to say.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Melissa, a lot of the stuff that you're putting in the world, people need to hear, and a lot of them haven't heard it this way before.
Thank you. And that, and that's what once I got comfortable at that workshop, and again, my nervous system patterns were like, just cancel, just make an excuse, just don't go. And I had to learn to stay in that quadrant of like that nervous system activation where myself is like, I know that this is a good thing. This is in alignment with what you want to do and where you want to go and, the people that you want to be around. So I had to kind of walk through the fire of my nervous system many times. I still am walking through that fire in many ways, but I had to walk through that fire and that activation to show my nervous system something new. And, once I got talking to them and I even said that to them, they were like, the way that you synthesize information and deliver it in a very human, relatable way is a gift. And I'm like, you know what it is? There it is. I didn't come from a similar background as them where, they had these beautiful big lives and studied all of these years and were on this trajectory of being doctors. And, I didn't have that. So the context of my life where I can take information that they are sharing, not that I know all of their information, but I can take information like that and put it through this filter of what that looks like in real life.
That's the one. That's the one. Because you distill things and there is no getting around life experience. I think so many people are at home waiting for the guru, waiting for the expert, waiting for the person with the right message who has the right letters next to their name, instead of actually listening to their body and listening to themselves and their own life experience and the wise people who are around them who have seen some stuff.
Yes. I always say I'm now looking at the world and how people interact and look at other humans. I'm like, you know what? I think that the general population has not spent enough time in trap houses to have a real good understanding of like the people who are actually dangerous, and they're not the people in trap houses, right? But it's like, I just think without that lens and without that, it is really hard to relate to the general population who have really experienced some stuff, like, and have seen it. And it's like, you can read the books and you can listen to this person's beautiful life and like everything that they've learned and everything that they have to offer. And you're like, yeah, could that apply to my real life? And we need more of that. Like, we need more, that's not just happening in a therapy session, or the whole like heal yourself culture that's like chocolate cake and bubble baths. Like, go in your bathroom and do self-care and by yourself and like figure it out.
But I always tell people, yeah, you can do self-care, which is great.
Yeah.
But if you want to heal in relationships and people, there's no solution for the hard, messy part that comes from being with somebody, and you're going to have to expose yourself. You're going to have to experience things. There are some parts of my life that are only triggered in certain environments, right? I can't experience love in a romantic sense with somebody who's a friend and is safe, right?
Right.
That is not the same thing. So I can train all I want on my own. I can go to therapy all the time. My therapist makes great points, but then I got to go out in the like world and live this thing.
Oh, I have to apply it? Like, it's like
and I don't like the idea that I have to save it up for next week, right? Like collecting it. That's the one part for therapy that's hard for me, is when people are like, okay, yeah, so I'm going to save it all week and then bring it back. It's like, no, work through this. I have to do the work. I tell people all the time, in a healing environment, we're not allowed to blame anybody else. I have to take like radical accountability and self-awareness. And then I got to figure out which part of this is me and which part of it is like, is this me being dysregulated, or is like somebody else being dysregulated?
Right.
And then how do I deal with that in a responsible way? Because I don't want to be the pressure cooker, and I don't want to end up all over the kitchen.
Yeah, me either.
As we both laugh.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, I did my fair share of therapy and had poor experiences, and had, when I was 19, someone that I loved so dearly overdosed. And I talk about not knowing what to do with emotions. I mean, it was like, I was raised in this Italian Catholic family that by young parents who, I've been at both of my parents' college graduations. Like they had no idea what they were doing, and had messes and trauma of their own. And it was very messy. So no one knew what to do with emotions other than scream them out like absolute maniacs. But not in a like release kind of way, just like, I'm so out of control with these emotions kind of way. So I had this experience and had no idea what to do with any of it. And they didn't know what to do. They took me to a quick care, and a physician's assistant wrote me a prescription for Xanax. Like, I look back on that now and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
well, it's certainly not going to solve the real problem, right?
It's not going to solve anything. Not only that, like, I liked to party. So it was like, it's like, I in my brain, they write me this prescription. And I'm like, yeah, my friends and I sometimes use that. Like, they're, and it's like, no one was talking and no one was saying like, this is going to feel awful for a long time. That was 22 years ago. It still feels awful.
Right.
That still, when I think of him, when I think of that experience, it still feels awful. And if somebody had been like, this absolutely sucks, it's awful, and it feels horrible, and it will ravage your body, and it will ravage your brain, and it will make you do crazy things if you don't know what to do with all of that buildup and all of those things that are happening. So it's like, I went to one therapist that had diagnosed me with PTSD, which is inaccurate. Complex PTSD is an accurate diagnosis, I would say. So, we're working through this literal PTSD workbook, which, if you look at those contexts, PTSD is like a stab wound. No, it doesn't have to literally be a stab wound, but it's an acute event, one event that you can point back to.
And really harsh, really impactful. And it can be emotional, physical. It could be a combination.
A combination. But you can point back to that one event. So this workbook is like, you're working through this one event. Well, for someone like me, I'm like, do you want
Do you want
the
all
100 from when I was 3?
Yeah.
Do you want the 300 from that day when I was 19? Do you want to go to, so I'm like working through these events, these multitude of events, and I got worse. I felt worse. I was like, I sometimes can't get out of bed. I literally, and I think like, I was never actively suicidal. I had suicidal ideations and I didn't understand the difference. So I was terrified to even tell anyone that I ever had thoughts like that. Cause I'm like, oh, they're going to throw you in a psych ward. You don't know.
Well, and I also think this is one of the places where mental health kind of goes off the rails, literally, is because what we do is we make everyone keep this secret at the time when they need the most support. And there is a big difference between the two. I think most human beings, if they're honest, especially if they've experienced any kind of chaos in their life, have had a moment where you're like, I don't know if this is it, and I don't know if I want to necessarily be here. And I think that's a really honest thing to acknowledge.
Yes.
But when no one will ever have that conversation with you, you think there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And then you think, if I share it, I'm going to be punished for it. And so then you just it becomes this spiral that you just put more pressure on yourself and guilt and shame. And now all of a sudden you're torturing yourself, and the very thing you need is the thing you can't reach for.
Yes. I mean, it's so normal. What do you do in any situation when you are feeling extreme pain or extreme danger? You look for the exit. That's all an ideation like that is. Like, I'm feeling so overwhelmed or so much despair or so much of anything that my brain is just looking for an exit. And it's saying, oh, well, could take a hard left off the bridge.
And life is really hard.
Yes.
And it might, I don't know if I'm ready for hard, or I don't know if I can keep doing hard. Especially with chronic pain.
Yeah, I don't have the tools. And there's a very real difference between having those thoughts and having active plans of suicide. And all of that needs to be talked about more and very openly. And I think the more people hear that, like, oh, they've had that thought too, or like they've had that experience as well. Like, there so much, I think, of what we are struggling with is thinking that something is wrong with us. We are inherently broken or flawed, or like I am, objectively different from everyone else, and, something in me is off or not right.
I'm alone. I'm empty. I'm wrong. I'm unwanted. Like shame. I think shame is one of the most powerful, but almost, in my opinion, useless emotions, because it's like, look, the thing happened. The question is, are you the same person who did the thing, or did you learn from the experience? Because every human being is going to make a mistake. But constantly being reminded of it too at times. And sometimes people, the ones closest to you, are the ones who are reminding you or imposing shame and steering with it, which also that's a manipulation thing.
Oh, yeah.
But people live in this shame cycle. And I'm like, I'm just going to wash myself in the shame every day. I'm going to own this and pretty much say, yeah, I sucked. Like, I am who I am, because the other side of that is like, okay, I know that I sucked in that moment. But the Michael who knows that now is not the idiot who did something stupid, right? And that awareness is valuable. And I'm not ever going to like defend something stupid that I did in my life. But I also grew from it. And if we don't ever grow from it because we sit in it, like, there's no progress there, and all you're going to do is tear yourself apart. And I think so many people are tearing themselves apart and telling themselves that they're not worthy, or that they don't deserve to be happy, or that they don't deserve the life they have. Because sometimes it's people who have the most beautiful lives from the outside, but you don't know what they're living with. You don't know what they grew up in.
I wholly believe that all of the wrong people feel all of the shame.
Yeah, I completely
agree.
agree.
Looking at some people and I'm like, they feel no shame. But, I look at like a beautiful soul like yours, and I'm like, and he feels all the shame. And
I know,
I'm like,
you and me.
We need to like
we're over here
spread
going
this.
like,
it's not an equal distribution system for sure.
No, but terrible people have no shame.
No shame.
Right?
No shame.
And I look at inequity in our society, right? And you have billionaires who literally are just taking more and then building bailout bunkers because they know that they're screwing it all up, right? And the concept is like, that's okay. We're all just going to bail to the bunker. It's like, so you know you're screwing it up. And instead of having shame where you really might benefit from some, no, you just feel like I'm just going to buy a bigger house and like put it on an island somewhere and buy another plane. Like that is, and then you wonder why normal people have anxiety.
Right.
Because I'm watching the person who's doing it get ready to leave me in it.
Right. And I think people say like, oh, power makes people crazy. And it's like, no. There's a certain personality that craves power, that is really drawn to power. Whereas I think for the rest of us, many of us are like, I don't want the power. I don't want to be in charge. Like, I want everybody to just be like feeling good.
I don't want to have to be in charge, right? Like I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, if no one else is going to step up, I might have to make a decision here.
Fine, I will tell everybody.
Right. But like for the most part, I'm like, I really would like to just kind of be left alone and like do a little traveling and spend some time and work on projects.
Yeah. Shane, like I've had some fascinating conversations with people, especially, people that I knew when I was younger, and they were like, oh, I had no idea. Like I thought, they looked at my outward appearance. And I think that that's something that especially as women, but really as everyone, and, working in the industry that you've been in, like we're so aware of appearance and things like that. And I remember a woman looking at me and was like, when I heard you say that you hated yourself, she was like, I realized like, oh, the size of my body or like,
what you look
wasn't
like,
going to change it.
Yes.
It's like, there was more to it than that. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. I mean, no one thought that I was a worse person than I did. Like no one. So even people that didn't like me, like they would say things and it's just like, yeah.
I was like, that's all you got?
Yeah.
I was like, if you only knew.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I can do much better. Do you want me to give you a list of things?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Trust me, I've been hearing it my whole life. Right?
Yes.
Like in my case, I grew up in a public setting. I've been listening to millions of people tell me how much they dislike me forever. So if you think I can't come up with about 1 million reasons, like I got plenty of reasons to pick myself apart. And everything I've done is on video.
Yes.
So like I can go back and nitpick it like again and again and again and again.
Yes.
And go, oh, I should have done. There's about 5,000 other choices. And then the rest of the world saw somebody who made people laugh and thought it was great. But those aren't the messages I heard.
No.
And those aren't the messages I told myself. And it's part of this is, what is the voice that's in your head? And I always ask people, who does it sound like? Because it usually doesn't sound like you. It usually sounds like some kind of person early in life who sent you a message. And was that message also like, was it because that's how they felt? Was it for control? Was it manipulation? And how long do you have to listen to that thing? Like I tell people, I tie up that little voice. I tie that thing up and throw it in a closet somewhere in the back of my head. When I hear it in my head, I'm like, yep, that's you, but that's not me. I would say what I want to say, but I probably make some people cringe.
I received a lot of mixed messages, and, people who loved me could say horrific, horrible things, as well as kind and complimentary things. And I think, the brain is always going to be like, well, how do I trust that?
Right.
Like, how do I trust anything good? Because our brains are designed and hardwired for survival.
Yes.
That is it. And I think that we need to understand that survival does not mean happy or feeling good. It's literally hardwired for survival by any means necessary.
And see the threats first, because that's the biggest threat to survival.
So it's wired for a negativity bias. So it's kind of like, and then you tackle on upbringings and experiences and things like that, and it really hones that skill. But at the onset, right, the brain's just like survival. So, you cut and restrict your calories significantly. Your body will maybe adapt to that at first, but it is so much smarter than you will ever be. And it's like, okay, and now I need to reroute this and reroute that and do this for survival and it's like, you can eat 1,000 calories of spinach and your body's like, my quickest source of energy is going to be fat. So I'm going to turn all of that into fat. Like, it's the same thing with our emotions. It's the same thing with, like, we are designed for survival, and the brain will just be like, I just need to survive. I don't care if I'm happy. So what is going to keep me functioning and surviving? If I need to look for the confirmation bias and I'm an absolute piece of shit, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's going to keep me safe. So that is what happens unless we very intentionally do something different.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I want to give people some real tangible solutions, some things people who are hearing this. So teach me so I can learn from you, so I can get off the hamster wheel a little bit, because I feel like I'm the hamster who is now riding the wheel that's going over in circles instead of running it. Talk to me about like a couple of your favorite like regulation exercises and things.
So I kind of took all of these things and I developed what I call the S.A.F.E method. So it's an acronym for Sense, Acknowledge, Flow, Evolve. And really a good starting point would be with the evolve. It goes through a trajectory, but evolve, what I teach is we want to evolve our relationship to all of this. So we don't say, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? And how do I make it stop? Because you're then just creating another feedback loop. You're creating more activation. Instead, we're like, this is a protective response. Protective responses are completely natural. How do I bring connection to this moment? So I say there are 3 pathways to connection, which is like grounding, regulating, whatever the tools that you want to call in there. So there are 3 pathways, 3 C's.
Yeah.
There's core connection. So this is like my, do I need my basic needs? Think that. Like, am I hungry? Have I slept? Because you are not going to feel regulated if your basic needs are not being met. I haven't eaten. I haven't slept. I'm really thirsty. I need to go to the bathroom, right? So it's like our interoception, and interoception is like our ability to understand and read our internal cues. So core connection is using that interoception, like my internal cues are needing what right now? So there's core connection. There's current connection. So current connection is grounding tools. That's coming to this time and space. So we hear a lot of like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And you can use like a make your own there. So it's like that, it's literally using your 5 senses, a current connection. Can I feel my feet on the floor?
I love to tell people, if you carry something small that you can tangibly touch in your hand, stones are great because they're usually cold, right? And it gives you something that you can touch, feel, hold. Like, I was doing this stuff as a little kid doing interviews, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And nobody knew that's what, but my mom would be like, take a car with you, or take a stone with you. So like my little cars, I would roll the wheels, right? Yeah. And that was tangibly holding something and reconnecting with where I am in this moment, connecting.
I sit in sessions all day, and I have like stones and rocks and crystals on my desk, and they'll have like, spiky, like there's, you can really like feel it. And I will hold that all day. I'll like pass things back and forth, but I'm anchoring into that because, I'm hearing some of the worst things that you can ever think or experience or be a part of. So it's like that current connection, right? So grounding tools, and there are no right ways to do it. And there are way too many things to practice to try to shove yourself into a box and say, oh, I have to do it this way. So it's like finding your own kind of path. And that 3rd C is community connection. And we really dropped the ball here in so many ways. It's co-regulation, right? And it does not have to be with people. A lot of people struggle with this because they're not surrounded currently by safe people. So they're like, I can't co-regulate, like, with these people who are actively terrorizing me, like I can't, we can start with, it could be a person that you like, their voice signal safety, or you really, this podcast, somebody listening to it, that could be community connection, petting an animal, nature, walking outside and like literally just watching a tree or watching birds. listening to birds, all of those are community connections, watching natural moving water. So you just have to pick one pathway. You don't need to nail all three. You don't have to have any specific thing. Pick one pathway and really sit down and say, oh, as far as core connection goes, like asking myself if I've had water, if I need to go to the bathroom, like those can be my 2 questions. For current connection, it's like, I really like just pressing my feet into the floor and feeling that. Or, whatever those, just write down 1 or 2 tools that fit into those, like community connection. This is a safe person that I can text. And you don't have to be processing. Like I loved what you said earlier about just making someone smile or like giving someone a compliment. That is co-regulation. You don't have to process through what's happening or talk about what is going on.
You don't have to share the horrible thing that you're experiencing. You don't have to tell anybody exactly.
I don't.
I love random acts of kindness. Because when things, and I tell people all the time, when things are the worst for me is usually when I go do something kind, because it's a reminder that kindness, it kind of does all 3 for me, right? Yeah. It's a reminder from my past of where kindness saved me. It's a connection to somebody else that I give somebody else a moment, right? And then it's my core of like, who do I want to be? So it does all 3 in a sense in an instant, right? Yeah. But that's mine. Yeah. That's not for everybody, right? Yeah. Some people, it might be music. Some people, you got to get out in nature. Some people hold something. So maybe some people write. Some people may just need to sit and do breath work. If that's what works for you, I have no judgment against it. Yeah. I'm a little more active and a little more like hands-on than that.
For sure.
So there is no wrong answer as long as you're moving in the direction of some kind of positive. And the pause. Yeah. I think you got to take the pause because you're on the roller coaster of like chaos. And
it has to start with that element of, we go straight into this like soothing or grounding, which if we are, I always say if you are maxed out, like if the lid has flipped, Instapot lid has come off, start there. Start with that E, right? Say, this is a protective response, completely natural. And I cannot stress how important those first 2 components are. We shift our relationship to this experience when we do that. From a problem to be fixed, like we let that go. When we say, oh, of course I feel like that. Of course, when someone says this and I feel rejection, my body like, duh. It's a protective response. It's completely natural. And we have to start changing our relationship to working with self, working with our nervous system. If we want to lock horns, I think we all know how that's going, right? Yeah. Like this whole, like, I need to fix it. There's something wrong with me. That fix it mentality. It's not going well.
Well, and part of the problem for me is always this concept of we have pushed this idea that either you're broken, which I don't think human beings break until they give in. I think we bend, we're adaptable, we mold, but also this idea that we have to fix us. That's a really scary concept because you're implying that there's something wrong with you, that you're not quite there or not quite whole, or that there is something that you like have to change everything in order to get back to. Yeah. And that you're doing something that's so much worse than everyone around you.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was only me. I'm the only one.
Right. Like I'm the only one who needs to be fixed. Everybody else is whole. And I'm just broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And that we have to let that go. Like non-negotiable. It's just like that needs to be taken off the table, and like being perfect and feeling good all of the time, all of that needs to be taken off the table. And I had gotten to a certain point where I felt good a lot of the time, and I started getting like stretches of feeling good a lot of the time. And then I would wake up and I always said that my depression felt like a heavy wet blanket. And I would just wake up in that state. It's like, and I know there are things that I can look back on where it's like, yeah, in the middle of the night, there could be a blow up in my house. So my body learned to stay, so there are things and triggers happening while I'm sleeping. Like I can't do anything about that. Right. But I would wake up and think, oh, here I go again. I messed it up. I didn't do it good enough. Like, how do I need to...
Or it didn't take.
It didn't take. I need to change all of these things. And it was like one day it clicked in my brain where I had that experience and I was like, yeah, of course. Like, of course.
And I didn't get here overnight.
Like that. Yeah, I'm gonna wake up like
this
that.
This is a whole bunch of stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
And some days suck. Like some nights you have a terrible nightmare. Like, no one gets angry. We're both parents. No one gets angry that their kid had a nightmare.
Well, some people do, but
healthy people shouldn't put it that way.
Right.
Because I'm not going to say that there weren't people in my life. So, not throw anybody under the bus. But yes, but in a normal sense, like you're not mad because a kid had a nightmare, right? That's a silly thing to have a reaction to. But as adults, part of us is just big kids. Like, there's there's more stuff to worry about now. I'm like, if you watch the news is a nightmare. It's a rolling, scrolling nightmare every freaking day. It's one of the reasons I my phone. I just want to throw it sometimes because it's literally in my pocket is all the chaos of the world. You think you're not supposed to have any like anxiety or like pressure from that. So you also have to learn when to like, okay, I'm gonna put that down.
The truth is, we are toddlers in taller bodies. There is no way around that. Like, we are toddlers in taller bodies. We are primal beings. You are a toddler.
Yeah.
Like, we all are.
Oh, no, I am. I will totally admit it. I am.
We've been domesticated, you know.
I don't know. I'm still kind of a feral animal.
I very much.
I tell people.
Just constantly balancing feral tendencies and intellectual pursuits. Like, it's like, yes. But we are toddlers in taller bodies. And that is what's happening, right? So we do have these experiences where it's like we have this activation and it could be present and it most likely is tied to the past. And, you know, we say The Body Keeps a Score, which is a horrible book. I'm sorry.
Listen, people love that book, but it also means like, oh, I'm stuck with this stuff.
Well, in the book itself, there are so many things. One, Babette Rothschild wrote The Body Remembers 30 years before that. So a woman wrote it.
Which never gets
30
credit.
years before. And she wrote it with a much more kind approach with tangible things to do. Whereas that book does not offer anything to do. It just basically is like...
Tells you you're broken.
Yes.
Tells you you're carrying all these things and everything just stacked up in your body.
And like, this is how horrible it is and this is how horrible all of it was for you. And it's like, you know, your body remembers your best days as well. Your body remembers a really warm hug that you received, and your body remembers any healing work that you've done. If we want to do it from that route, then we have to look at it bidirectionally. But also, what is actually stored in the body is not an event. Like, the body, it's not like a filing cabinet that you had this event and it files away this like specific event. What is filed away is that pressure. You had this experience and your body, right? We have this activation. And I say activation for like any of those rushes that we get, that anxiety that we feel, that fight or flight energy, that freeze or shut down energy, that's activation. So we have this activation. And for one reason or another, maybe you're a child and you can't fight back or you can't run away, or, you know, maybe it is just a situation where shutting down is the safest thing, but the body wanted to do something else, right? So it has this charge, and then we go about our day. We go about our life. We're done with that event and we're like, I need to go to therapy and I'll work on this later. I'll journal about it and all of this. And like, you can see my shoulders right now, even talking about it. I'm like this. And it's like, if I do this, or if I actively say like, oh, I need to relax, you need to relax, you need to relax. Yeah. That's not going to work either.
I'm going to relax. Don't I look relaxed?
Right. Like
calm
animals, right? Like primal animals, that charge, that activation is for us to use.
Right.
So, you know, a gazelle is chased by a lion. And the lion catches up to the gazelle and the gazelle plays dead. And we're like, that's genius, you know, except when we do it, when I dissociate, I'm an idiot. The gazelle plays dead and it's like, it's laying there and then the lion's like, oh, well, this thing's dead. I want to go off to other prey. Imagine that gazelle getting up and being like, I need to calm down.
Yeah, not running away. I'm just gonna, I really need to calm myself down.
I need to calm myself down. I need to journal or go to therapy about this. But it's like the gazelle gets up and it starts shaking. And it shakes and it bounces and it starts roughhousing with other gazelles. And it's like and it is utilizing that energy. It's completing that survival response. So what is actually stored in our body are incomplete survival responses. So I wanted to run and I didn't. I wanted to curl up in a ball and hide and I couldn't. I wanted to fight back. That wasn't an option. So when I developed this method, I started to learn, because, I was doing a lot of event-based therapies, which can be wonderful. EMDR, these things are powerful, wonderful therapies. And for people who have a lot of events, event-based therapies can be exhausting.
I don't know if I should feel seen or judged. I'm not really sure which. Maybe both, and both appropriately.
Yeah. I think that's so many of us. So these event-based therapies really fall short on progressing. I remember I was doing a certain practice, and I was like, okay, well, I'll be through all of this in 130 years. If I do this every week, I'll be through this all in 130 years. And it's
assuming nothing else happens.
Right.
Right? Like assuming the world's suddenly going to stop.
Right.
I'm never going to catch up at that pace.
Right. So I'm like, there has to be a way to do this in real time, in my real life, that is going to have an impact that I can use when I am activated and also when I'm not, to kind of progress forward. And I started taking all of these pieces of all of these puzzles and being like, okay, how do these work together? So that's where the sense, acknowledge, flow, evolve came from. So we've talked about the evolve, but the sense is like, if I can just notice something's happening in my body, something is shifted in any moment, both when I'm activated and also in practice. So in between my sessions throughout the day, when I do that check-in, I'm sensing what's in here right now. When I'm activated, I'm like, what's in here right now? So it's literally just sensing there has been a shift, or what is in here right now. Acknowledge is taking those components, those pieces of the puzzle that we learned about the brain and what happens, the concept of name it to tame it.
Okay, I was just going to ask you about naming.
Yeah.
And granularity.
Yes. So when I learned about granularity, when I learned about this concept of name it to tame it, I'm like, that makes so much sense. And in practice, in our real life, what happens when we are super activated, parts of our brain shut down. The prefrontal cortex, where it's all of this logic and reason, is see ya. The brain, again, survival. It's I need to pull resources away from there. I need to put all of my resources in my amygdala, which is the bells and whistles, the fire alarm, the fear center. And it, where do I need to direct all of this energy, and what do I need to do to
And how
survive?
do I run? How do I fight? Or how do I run? What do I do here?
It also likes to play with the hippocampus, which is our memories, our emotional center. So then we start weaving the story.
I want this part, because I've been waiting for you to talk about this.
Oh,
because we all write quite the story.
I'm an excellent storyteller.
Well, I write stories for a living, so you can only imagine what I write, because I write them for other people as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and my brain thinks that it knows exactly what everyone is thinking and saying about me, and it thinks it knows exactly what everyone means, and it thinks it knows, right? And it's I can take those stories and run in 17 different directions at light speed, and then create more activation. So in this practice, we have to, I say, divorce the story and marry the emotion, or ditch the story and metabolize the emotion. So it's I pull on that leash and pull my brain back from the stories. I'm okay, you can kind of sit down with stories and evaluate and analyze and do those things when you are regulated.
I was going to say, because it's real hard to do when you're in the middle of telling the story, or the story is playing out and happening, that is not the time to evaluate it or try to like change where you are.
If you are activated, you are not seeing anything clearly. You have tunnel vision, and I'll be 41 tomorrow. And, growing up, they use the projectors in school with like the clear sheet of paper with the like dry erase marker, and they would project that up there. So what's happening in those moments is you have the reality. You have the reality that's written on that dry erase marker, and then you have your history laid right on top of it. So it is a distorted view of everything that's happening. So you now have this like filtered lens. You have no idea what anyone means. You have no idea you do not see things clearly in those moments. So you have to let go of the story in those moments. Then we bring it to just sensations and emotions. So if instead of saying, "You're making me so mad. When you say that, it makes me feel," if instead I shifted to say like, "I'm so angry and my fists are clenching and my shoulders are coming up to my ears and I have this pit in my stomach that feels like a black rock just sitting in there, and it feels like disrespect, and it feels like inferiority, and it feels like shame," as many that I can name. What is going to happen is, one, we finally get what we always want, to be seen and heard.
Right.
And it starts at the source. Two, we bring the prefrontal cortex back online. We force it back online because we're using sensation language. We're coming back into our body. We're coming back into this present moment. So I'm naming exactly what's happening in my body. So I'm acknowledging sensation and emotions only. And when my brain goes onto that loop, I pull it back to sensations and emotions. And the magic key that unlocked it all for me was flow. And flow is very confusing for a lot of people because it's messy and it's primal and it's not going to soothing. We skip this arc straight into like regulation strategies and like, okay, I need to breathe. I need to feel good. That is that survival energy that's going to get stuck. So instead, I take that survival energy and all the stuff that I'm acknowledging and saying, like, I have this pin, I have all of this stuff, and I feel like shaking. So I let myself shake like this, right? And I let myself be an active participant in that. I lean in first.
Right.
If my jaw is clenched, I clench it harder. If my shoulders are coming up, I'm clenching them even harder. It seems counterintuitive, but it is beautiful. And what happens next is you naturally will be like, okay.
I survived the moment, and the moment starts to pass.
And I have actually moved that energy through my body. And the dividends that I started to see were not that I needed to go back to a specific event. Because if you look at it like, I picture Charlie Day in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's like, or no, I think it was in Horrible Bosses. He has this board, and it has all of these pieces of paper, and they're like the string, tying the pieces of paper together. And he's like trying to map something out, and the cigarette's hanging out of his mouth, and he looks like a crazy person trying to explain it. Our events are those pieces of paper. What they're connected by, that red string, right? Like an investigator trying to figure something out. The red string are our emotions. So when I am activated, when I'm triggered, it's an emotion that is triggered, not an event. And the emotion then starts to tie all of those events together, and the brain says, I know what this is, I know what this looks like, and I know what that's from. And here's what we do. Here's the pattern that we operate in when I feel rejected. Here's the pattern that I carry out. And it's connected by that emotion. So the dividends that I started to see when I felt the rejection and I sensed what was happening and I acknowledged the sensations and the emotions and I flowed with what my body wanted to do. And then I evolved by saying, yeah, of course, that's a protective response and that's completely natural. And now I can ground and regulate. It was like no matter what it was about, it started to heal the core wounds too. So I didn't need to go dig up every skeleton in my backyard. I needed to deal with the rejection, with the abandonment, with all of those things directly. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can do that in 90 seconds. And that's what we found. Like researchers found, it's through, I can't think of her name right now. So her TED Talk is My Stroke of Genius.
Yeah.
And it was through her work that we found that there is a 90-second neurochemical cascade. So like that charge that we feel, we can...
Every emotion is 90 seconds long unless we extend it.
If you ditch the story, right? When we get caught up in the story, we reactivate another 90 seconds. But if we take that 90 seconds to sense what's there, acknowledge what's there, flow, like lean in, let your body complete that survival response, magic.
I love when she talks about, because she says it's a stroke, right? Because this is so great because I'm a neuroscientist having a stroke.
And I'm witnessing it.
Which is like the perception... Mm-hmm. But that really is. The minute you stop the story, mm-hmm. your perspective changes everything, right? Yeah. And it was like, oh man, this sucks. Yeah. But by the way, it's a great study for what I've done my whole life. I've studied everybody from the outside. Now I'm experiencing. Yeah. But it is. And you tell yourself the story and then you continue the story. So then you stack another 90 seconds on it. And then you turn it into 5 minutes and you turn it into an hour and 5 decades. And you've been carrying this thing forever. Yeah. And it's like, how long do you want to carry that? Right.
And if you actually want to change the story, like change, anything there, we have to create this space in our system. So we do this, and now we have all this space, and we have neuroplasticity, and I can look at the world a little bit differently. Once I have got back into my body, once I have reconnected, then I can start to look at the world a little bit differently. I'm not going to do it when you cannot think your way out of that.
No, we're all trying to think our way out of feeling problems, mm-hmm. right? Like mm-hmm. I can't think my way out of an emotional moment. It just doesn't work that way.
And sit with it. When people think sit with it, they take that so literally, and it's like, no. You're not literally supposed to sit down and...
Well, they sit in it. Right?
Right.
The concept of sitting with it is different than sitting in it. And what we do is we sit in it mm-hmm. and we live in it. And we expand the story. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, you're a parent, mm-hmm. right? How do you tell your kid these are the things to use? How do you explain your gifts?
I don't. I show him. Perfect. And I learned that the hard way. None of us learn something by someone talking at us.
Right.
Or telling us something. We are at best, we have influence over any people, but especially children. At best, we have influence. And people are influenced by modeling the behavior. So you have to model the behavior. So I found, we started doing, when he was 2, I was going through a horrible, messy divorce from his dad. And neither of us had skills. And I started to put these little pieces of paper that just had happy, mad, sad, scared, which consequently is basically what adults also have. They don't have much range beyond those emotions. We do have a lot of words for mad.
We have a ton of words for mad.
But typically, we don't veer much from happy, mad, sad, scared, which is like 2-year-old language. But I started this with him, and I put these papers all over the house, and we would... just casually, all day. Not only when I could notice those emotions, I'd be like, what are you feeling? And I was doing it too. I was using an emotions wheel and like checking in with myself. So we started with things like that. But mainly, when I am angry, when I am sad, I narrate this out loud. So I'm doing the S.A.F.E method. I'm sensing and acknowledging and flowing, but I'm narrating this so he is watching me do it. Mm. I am feeling, so he's like, and parents especially are terrified of this, especially if you came from abusive, aggressive households. We're like, I don't want my child to ever see me feel anything like that. And it's like, well, no, they need to learn what to do with these big emotions because they're having them too. So if they witness you have big emotions and what you do with them, it's magic.
Yeah, the solution to having like chaotic background is not to pretend that there's no chaos.
We don't go to the opposite.
Right?
The opposite never works either.
Because you're just going to pretend and then you're going to bury it. And then again, you're going to blow up like the Instapot.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be all over the place.
Absolutely.
Or your kid is never going to learn how to repair and recover. Because they're like, oh, mom or dad never had a problem, right? They were fine with everything. It's like, no.
Or they don't have these big emotions. There's something wrong with me.
Right.
Because I feel so out of control sometimes. It's like we all feel like that. And they need to witness that. They need to witness you doing that. So I model the behavior. I literally go through it myself when I'm feeling it. And then I try to narrate his experience when he's having it. So, when I'm like, oh, you seem really angry. Like your fists are clenched and, oh, you're mad. Like you want to stomp and hit something. And it's like, here, let's stomp and hit here, kind of like redirecting to a safer place to do it. But giving him ideas of what to do with all of that. Because again, if we're just saying stop, like one, the brain hates that. The brain hates elimination. It loves reinforcement. So anytime you're saying like stop or I don't want to do that anymore, like the brain is just like.
So are you saying in all the relationships I've been in, every time I told somebody to relax, that was a bad idea? Because that's never really worked for me.
Here's what I can tell you without having the specific data. I can tell you I know in my bones that 0 times it has worked to tell someone to calm down.
Right.
It's
great in a fight, right?
World,
yeah, it's never worked.
No one has ever calmed down. And it's like, again, the prefrontal cortex is offline. Like if you're using logic and reason, you are speaking a language they have never heard.
Right.
Like that's the equivalent in that moment. So it doesn't matter. You're the asshole at that point.
It's like you want to see relaxed? You want to show you relaxed? I'm relaxed. Let me show you how relaxed I am.
100%. So it's like, I'm like, oh, you're mad. And I never try to stop him. When he is sad and crying, and I think this has been the hardest thing for other people, specifically with sadness. We as humans, when we don't have tools, we are so uncomfortable. If you are uncomfortable with your own discomfort, you cannot tolerate anybody else's. So it's like most of the time parents need their children to stop because they can't tolerate that discomfort. My son, if he starts crying, the first thing that I say is, let it out.
It's awesome.
And I have had to get people will come and they're like, oh, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, move. I'm like, let it out. When I tell you, for self and children, we move through things so much faster when we do it that way, as opposed to trying to get them to stop. So much faster. You want more peace in your life? Tell them to let it out. Be like, oh, you're big mad. Like, let it out. And I will just narrate that experience. And, I'll start to say that. And once he's like, I see that discharge is happening, I'll be like, what color shirt are you wearing today? More so, he's 10 now. So it's like, he kind of knows what's happening and can do a lot of that himself. But when he was very small, that I could see that there was a little bit of that discharge is alleviating after, 30, 60 seconds. I'd be like, what color shirt are you wearing? And he'd be like, red. What do you mean? I'm like, where's your left knee? And he's like, it's right here, Mom. And it's like, what shoes are you wearing today? It's like, Mom, I'm wearing that you can watch it just come back to that present moment. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, and now we're having a conversation.
Yeah. My youngest daughter has a couple of just kind of brilliant releases. And it was just us when she was a teenager. After a divorce, it was rough. Things were not pretty. And the first thing we did is we went somewhere and I said, okay, you need to let it out, because she was so used to holding it in. And it was a like gut check moment for me, because I realized that was my fault in this moment, because I said, okay, I'm going to set an alarm and I need you to, for this extended period of time, you're just going to let it out. And I don't care if other people stare. I don't care what happens. Like, you have full permission. So she just starts bawling, and bawling turned into louder and turned into snot, and like she's leaning on me, and then the alarm goes off and she looks up and there's literally snot connecting us. We were ugly. Like, it was not a pretty picture, right? And we're in a public place.
I think that's beautiful.
And I'm like, I don't care, because this is you. If you try to eat this pain, it's going to eat you. And she looks up, and we're connected by snot. It's probably one of the grossest things you could think of. And she looks up, and I said, "This is lovely," right? With a joke, because it's my nature. I make jokes when things are terrible.
Yeah.
And she laughed, and she said, "What is that?" Because the alarm was still going off. And I turned the alarm off. I said, "It's the beginning of the rest of your life." I said, "So what do you want it to look like?" And from that day, we adopted this policy. And she will literally come in when stuff sucks, and she'll be like, "Hold on, I need a moment." And she will grab a pillow and scream in the pillow, and then literally turns around, puts the pillow down, and literally smiles at me. She goes, "I just need to get that out because people suck." And I'm like, that's the healthiest thing. But I didn't have that. And where it started was that night when she was bawling. I was like, "It's the rest of your life." And we started talking. I started crying. And my daughter had a visceral reaction. And I did not realize my 16, 17-year-old daughter turned to me. She goes, "I've never seen you cry before." And I was like, "Oh, I messed this up. That's why you don't think you can cry," right? I didn't leave space for that. Even though I didn't intend for that to be the thing, I didn't think that was the message they were watching. And she thought there was something wrong with her by letting it out. And from that moment on, it was like, "Oh yeah, just let it out." I could not echo that more. Is like, let it out. And so I laughed because she would just be like, "Today sucks, so I just need a phone." And she'll call me from 3,000 miles away at college and be like, "Hey, you're my person, so I'm about to ugly cry. Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let me know when you're good. I'm here. And if you want to talk about it, we talk about it. Otherwise, I'm just going to be here and make sure and she'll tell me things in the car. She's like, "I'm going to lose it, so I'm going to pull off. So I'm just going to leave you on the phone for a minute while I lose it. And when I start driving again, you'll know I'm safe."
I probably need to hold your hand when I say this because I want it to land on your body. You are such a good dad.
Listen, I've screwed up a lot. It's part of the reason.
You are such a good dad.
See me deflect the
And
compliment.
the world needs more of that. Like as a man, as a man, as a daughter, right? The world, you are such a good dad.
Well, I didn't get it right all the time. And I think the beauty of it is, I appreciate that. Because what I think to myself in that moment is, this isn't about me, right? Like this is about processing. And it's about blessing her to be free to be her.
Yeah.
Right? And I never really thought I was doing that, because it's a really funny thing is like I went to a funeral as a teenager, much like you talked about being 19. Like I lost a friend in gang violence, and he passed away, and his mom was furious with me because at the funeral I couldn't cry. I was not capable, right? Like life had kind of beaten that out of me in a sense. And I didn't cry all the way into like my probably late 20s, early 30s till I really started coming back to acting, which is something I always tell people. Is like, it sounds so funny, but like it was easier for me to find emotion again under imaginary circumstances because it wasn't me. So I wasn't holding all of the Michael persona, right? Like this identity that I had forged of like, you will endure. All of my dad's like old school, hard world, like I built you to be a soldier. You're not supposed to have emotions. So with my kids, I never tried to instill that, right? Yeah. I was like, yeah, have emotions, but still some part of that leaked through, right?
You didn't know what to do.
And I didn't realize I was passing it on.
Yeah.
So in my late 30s, to watch my daughter be like, "I've never seen you cry." I'm like, well, you're going to see it a lot more.
I think messing up is important. Like, I think as parents especially, messing up is important because, again, how will they know what to do when they mess up?
This is for the people at home. I am the chief of the adult parent messing up department. So like, don't feel bad. You're not alone.
I don't know about that.
I'm leading that pack.
I mean, I know that like you hear me talking about this and like what I started doing when he was very young, but also like I have like taken a tower fan and like held it over my head and screamed and like busted it. Like that, I've also done that. And I think it's important because one, I mess up and then I apologize.
Yeah.
and I say, I'm so sorry. Like, that's not appropriate. And now, you know, he's at an age where he understands. I've let him into a little bit of that world of like what my life was like growing up, and you know what I saw and how that's what I learned. And sometimes that comes out, especially like, you know, we have a running joke because my ability to emotionally regulate myself at like 9-ish p.m. starts to just steadily decline.
So that's when my language steadily declines. Just for the record, I grew up with comics. So like about 2 a.m., I am a sailor who with bad intentions.
Well, I am like that all the time. So as you can see, but my ability to emotionally regulate, it really just starts to decline. And then once I'm tired, it plummets. And you know, he goes back and forth between households. So we have this household that's like loosely structured, but definitely around bedtime. Like I love a bedtime routine, and like we're going to bed. You know, he lives in another house where it's like they don't have that. They stay up late, and he, you know, and he likes that. So sometimes it's like he's trying to push this bedtime, and I'm like on this steady decline. So we have a joke where I'm like, Mama's at 2%, and he'll be like, oh. Like I'm gonna
but
I need to kick it in the high gear because I'm like I got nothing left. I got nothing left, Cannon. And you know, and it's like he's like, yeah, he recognized, oh, she's just been very patient all day, and like, you know, but I have nothing left because I messed up a lot in those moments when I would be very tired, when I had a lot of stuff going on, when my pressure was just like, you know, it's messy and it's ugly, and especially with small kids, it's like. It's, you know, it's not necessarily, I can't, you know, with a 18-month-old, like sit him down and casually go through the S.A.F.E method. It's messier than that. So it's like all this buildup, and it is important to mess up. They need to see it. They need to witness you mess up. They need to know it's okay to mess up, and they need to know how to repair after I've messed up.
Repairs everything to me.
Everything.
I think this is where most relationships get destroyed. It's where most lives get destroyed.
Absolutely.
Because most people don't know how to repair. And I would tell you the one big mistake I made in my marriage was if a fight happened, and we didn't fight a lot, but the repair never happened in front of them, right? So then when my daughter was a teenager, particularly when it was just us, and she started to do the thing where she had to pick fights to push away, which was a real lesson for Dad, because I had to really regulate myself, because I'm like, why is she, like, she's losing her mind right now. It's like, yeah, because she can't tell you that she's going to miss you or that she's upset. My business partner, Michael, who's here, was more than a few times like the person on the other end of the phone who's like, listen, she has to push away from you because she doesn't know how to say goodbye. And I needed to hear that from someone I trusted. You're going back to community and connection, right? Yeah. But I will tell you, like, I'm like, what is going on? Or like, what? And the reality is like, once I started going, oh, this is her way of pushing away because she doesn't have the language for it. The minute you start repairing and you start connecting over the fact that, hey, we need to repair, what happened is we opened up this beautiful world of communication, which is like the most incredible thing. Because even now we joke about it, like about a day before one of us has to leave, there's always like and I literally will turn to her. I'm like, I am not fighting with you in the last day and a half.
Picking fights.
We have already established this. I get it that you're getting ready to leave and that it's hard for you and it's hard for me and that we're not very good at this. I said, but I'm just going to repair before the fight happens. And so I joke, it's like, I call it preemptive repair. It's like, I'm just going to say really loving things every time you say something, or every time you pick a fight. I'm going to say the most ridiculous, like, I'm going to tell you I love you about 5,000 times, and I will literally smile and be like, I love you. If that's how you feel, you can call me that. I totally love you. And she has transitioned into being like, I'm really going to miss you. So I'm having a hard time. And we're like too huggy, like we're like, she's 2 years old and I'm that dad who held her in the beginning. Yeah. And I'm like, good, because this is what I need before you leave, right? And I get what I really needed because I started to have the language to communicate what it was that I really wanted.
You are such a good dad.
It took a while.
There's a children's book called Be the Rabbit. And I read this to adults often. And children as well. But in the book, it is such a beautiful story. The child's blocks get knocked down. And one by one, the animals come. The ostrich comes and says, let's bury our heads in the sand. The kangaroo comes like, let's clean this up. The bear comes and is like, let's yell. The snake comes and is like, let's go knock down somebody else's. You see one by one all of our coping mechanisms through these animals. But the child's not ready to do the thing that they're suggesting, so they all leave. The rabbit comes. And the rabbit doesn't say anything. The rabbit comes in and sits down and snuggles up and listens.
Yeah.
As the child goes through yelling, as the child goes through, planning on knocking down somebody else's, one by one through all of the coping skills, right? Until he comes around to saying, oh, here are my plans to rebuild. And I think that's such a beautiful example of what we really need to be doing for people is being the rabbit. And I have a community that's what we say. Like, we are here to be the rabbit. So when somebody shares something in our community that's really hard and you don't know what to say, send a rabbit emoji. Like, let them know. And what that means in our community is like, I'm here, I see you, and I hear you, and I'm here. And Glennon Doyle, in her book Love Warrior, she has a similar sentiment, and she's talking about how we all have the wrong job description for love. We think that we're supposed to avoid or fix or protect people from experiencing pain, but what we really need are people who are willing to sit in helpless vigil to our pain. Just to be the rabbit. Just say, that really sucks. I do that so often with my son, with my clients, with my friends, with the people around me. Like, that sucks. That's awful. I'm sorry. Like, that's unfair. That is what people really need.
No, you can't fix it for anybody.
No.
And what you really need, this is actually where the Lighthouse thing came from, is it came from people online, from sitting in people's storms, is people started saying, oh, you're very much like a lighthouse. It became an imagery, which is why it's a lighthouse in the dark, is because all I want to do, I can't fix your dark, but I will sit with you in it. I will stand here with you. I will legitimately care, and I will shine a light, because I'm not going to change that part of me. And then when you're ready to light your own light, you will light your way for other people and for yourself, and you will create your own safe harbor. And so that's literally where this kind of came from. And to me, people don't need you to fix it.
No.
What they need you to do is say, yeah, this sucks, and I'm glad I'm not alone in this moment, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad someone cares. I'm glad you hear me. I'm glad you see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you have a book coming out.
I do. Everyday Nervous System Regulation.
Okay.
It's kind of a play. I had published this deck of cards, 75. It's the Vagus Nerve deck, and it's like 75 different exercises. But the book is expanding on everyday nervous system regulation. What is actually happening in our systems and our brains, what this feels like in real life, and 100 different exercises, 100 different things to do, and how to plug and play them, and how to make your own plan. And I have 7-day plans in there, and 10-day plans in there, and build your own 30-day plans, like how to hit it from both sides, right? How to use it as this tool, this practice day to day, and when you're struggling. So, it's real life. That's my main thing is I want to share how you can apply these things in your real life and make it tangible. It's the same thing in my social media. People are always like, you need to scale it back and like just give them a glass of champagne, give them a little bit, and then put things behind a paywall. And I'm like, no. They can pay me if they want to, but I'm going to tell them everything I know. I'm like, everything that I share is going to be something tangible that you can use. You can apply that to your real life. That is so important to me that's all I want to do. And I'm like, you know what? People will pay me for things, or if they want, but I will tell you everything that I know. And I want it to be tangible. We have to be able to use these things in our real life, not just by ourselves or in therapy or, on the perfect day when we're feeling the perfect moment.
I am so thankful that you came and shared all of this with us. I've learned new ways. I've learned new phrasing. I've learned new pathways. I love your stuff. As I've said to you before, I will make sure that all of your stuff is linked so that people can find it easy. But more than anything, thank you for shining your light. Thank you for being willing to just give what you learned and for not silencing your voice, because it would have been so much easier in the beginning. And so I love and honor the part of you that just pushed past all of the really like difficult, unfamiliar change that required you to do this, because you've changed a lot of people.
Thank you. I am practicing receiving that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.